Welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. If you are in the market for a new car, make sure you check out my guy Matt Bowers. All kinds of locations all throughout the region. The one consistent thing at all of them is that you will get the best customer care, the best prices, the best car buying experience that you can have. Go check out Matt. Tell him that we sent you. All right, we got a good show for you guys today. Just kind of recapping some of the stuff and setting you up for the 6 week drought between minicamp and training camp. So we watched 5 practices. We saw a lot of football, and we have some early impressions of what this team can be. So that takes us into our first topic, presented by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. What is the Saints' identity in 2025 going to be?
I mean, I don't think they know because this team makeup was forced upon them. They wanted to keep Derek Carr. They wanted to be competitive this year. They obviously kept um, Demario Davis and Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu, and they kind of wanted to be stuck in that limbo. And then this rebuild got forced upon them with Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler leading the way for a new coach in Kellen Moore. So I think that should be their identity: is hey, we're slowly but surely building something here. Um, but but I can't decide if they're all the way in on that identity. I think either way, though, they're gonna try to succeed through Kellen Moore's offense, offensive line, run game. Don't ask too much from the quarterback, but overall identity, I think it's a weird place, and we're all kind of finding out together.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one because I don't know that they're hanging their hat on anything right now. I think the thing they want to hang their hat on is the offensive line, and they don't know if they got 5 hooks or not. So if they do, okay, fine. Like there's a lot of stuff to hang hats on. But if not, if you have 3 hooks, if you got two, it's going to be a little bit dicey. So I think it's very much to be determined. I definitely don't think it's defense. I know what the defense wants its identity to be, and I think they'll probably start moving toward building an identity on that side of the ball. They want to be a team that is making dynamic plays, and the way to do that is to play kind of their pattern match defense. Your back is into the ball, you're able to jump some things. I think that's what they want to be, but I don't know if they have all the players they need to be the best they can be at that and have that be this is what the Saints do. I don't know that we get to the end of the season and say
Right.
this is what the Saints do. I think there's a lot of things. I think there's going to be clear direction toward what they want to be, but I don't know if they achieve anything so much so that Chris Collinsworth, if he were to ever watch a Saints game, which he won't be doing from a booth, but if
He
he
might
watches
watch
one,
one.
you know
He
what I
might
mean? Like,
watch one if it shows up on like the 1 hour recap on
yeah,
NFL Network while he's making breakfast.
but I don't know that there's going to be the thing where someone's sitting in the booth and they're like, man, you can't do that against, or the Saints will
Yeah.
get you doing that. Like, I don't know if they're going to have that this year.
I hope that's the case, though. I think that's the best case scenario, is that we, even if we don't see it come completely to fruition, we see what they're trying to do and we see glimmers of hope from it. Me and B were talking about Friday that I think our favorite thing about Kellen Moore is B used the word intentional, that he has plans, that he has ideas, that he has a vision. I want to see a vision from this team. Of course, they're not going to implement it and fully execute it in year one. They don't have enough talent to do that on offense or defense. But if we see, oh, this is the kind of team they can be, they just need 3 or 4 more pieces, and they have time, and they're heading in the right direction. That I hope that's the identity of this team. That's the team I would want to cover and analyze.
I think the only piece of it they have a chance of accomplishing is the offensive line part. There's a chance. There's a chance if Kelvin Banks plays really well and Tali Fuaga plays really well and Trevor Penning plays really well that the one thing they do is block the run and give their quarterback time to throw. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the quarterback's making all the right reads and all the right decisions and executing all the throws, but there's a chance that we say, hey, look, they can block the hell out of the run and they're going to give him opportunities to take shots down the field. And if you can do that stuff, like maybe that's something that we see a little bit. But I agree with you 100% that I don't think that there's any chance that we see a fully formed, fully realized, cup of orange juice on the table. Like you might be squeezing a little bit, but like you aren't filling up the cup yet this year. And that's okay as long as you have a plan for how to get all the pulp out of it.
You've got a lot of good analogies. You said hooks for the hats. How many hooks do they have? They definitely just have like a big, like a boardroom table that they all just throw their stuff on when they walk in the house. There's
The
no
bed. It's the bed.
the bed.
I don't know how they still do it, but yeah, like in the 80s and 90s, like that was it. Like my mom would be like, "Go find Dolly's coat," and it's like you got to dig through 45 of them. It's Erie, Pennsylvania. The coats weigh 15 pounds. Like there were a lot of lot of Trevor Penning coats on that bed, man. Like yeah, they're just like rattlers under here somewhere. Like
Uh, do
oh
not have to
man.
worry about coats in Saints training camp. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah, not right away, but yeah, I mean, I think that's best case scenario. Like if they can get that line together a little bit, maybe, and I think there's potential for some defensive identity to come from maybe the safeties. I think you have enough talent there for those guys to make some plays. Tyron's going to make some plays. Reed's going to crash down. I think that gives you a little bit of identity in the back end. Maybe the defense can feed off it. I have big concerns about this defense still, just
Of
in
course,
general. Like I think it could come together in some form or fashion, but just without like there's just nothing you can see, right? I mean, like it's hard to leave these things. Whereas, like it's like okay, I can see that the quarterbacks can throw the ball and they can make some decisions, they can complete some passes, and the receivers can catch them, and that alleviates that like a little bit. I don't think it's like real relief. I don't think it's real direction, but just kind of some of that you can see. Like the big questions with the defense are in the front seven, specifically with the pass rush. And that is something that you're getting no answers from this time of year. So huge concerns there. I will say, just walking back from our last Monday show, like we sat here, we said, hey, look, it's more me than you. Secondary needs to make some plays. They did make some plays in this
that's true.
practice or these two practices. So I feel a little bit, it was just, hey, I want to see X and Y, and we saw X and Y out there. So that felt a little bit better after completing. I did the math. 87% of the passes during OTAs, that number dropped in these a little bit. So that was good to see. I still thought the quarterbacks were okay, but the defense definitely played a lot better.
Well, look, and let's remember what they did this offseason. They immediately trade for Devon Godchaux. Their big free agent signing was Justin Reed. Two of their first draft picks, or maybe their two first defensive draft picks, were another interior defensive lineman and another safety. So how that works is, are they stopping the run on first down? Are they forcing teams into actual third and long situations? And then their pass rush. I mean, like all kinds of things we're never going to see until we get into real game situations. I hope this team is boring and methodical. I hope they run the ball and stop the run because that's something this team hasn't done while it's fallen apart.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully, like, there's a young guy in the mix on that run game because, like, man, they need an answer there too behind Alvin at some point. Although that's addressable, but
Yeah.
it would feel good if Devin Neal was part of that or something like that. If you want to know everything that happened at these practices, you want the breakdown of all the passes, how many they completed, who caught the passes, who had the most catches, who had the least amount of catches, breakdown all the targets to every receiver, all of it. That's on NewOrleans.Football. Use the code NOF, save 20% on your first payment. And go check that out. We also have our 53-man roster projections up there from me, Mike, Hendricks, and B. So if you want to read those, go check it out. See who we have on the team heading into training camp. So make sure you sign up for the site. You get more podcasts, more shows, more everything. So make sure you're on there. All right, moving into our next topic, presented by Shea Bear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Give them a call. Make sure you are looking for the Earhart Agency. I hit them up just right before these practices. Say, hey, my car insurance is too high. They save me $120 a month. So maybe they can do the same for you. Ask for Ryan. He'll get you hooked up. Tell him we sent you. All right. So if you can fix one position, let's take quarterback out of it because we're both going to pick
Yeah.
quarterback. So you can fix one non-quarterback position on the Saints, and you say this changes everything. Is there one? And if there isn't one, still, what would it be? What's the one that you think makes the greatest material change to the roster if you can fix it?
Well, just to go back and echo your point from the first segment, if we had said this, and we had these conversations back in March, it was offensive line for me, which is why I'm so optimistic that they drafted Kelvin Banks with that first round pick. And just in general, like I believe that could work. And I think there's nothing that would be better for this team than Kelvin Banks and Tali Fuaga work out. You and Brandon had a really good conversation last week about, does Trevor Penning need to work out? Like, how important is it that he works out? I think it'd be a nice bonus if he works out. I don't put everything into that, but it'd be a nice bonus if he works out. Obviously, Eric McCoy has to stay healthy, but that's the unit. I mean, if that unit lives up to its potential, it gives me hope that, hey, maybe this team can be competitive this year, and maybe this team has a future. So it's not my answer to this question if you're saying which one is the furthest away from being fixed. But man, if they got that right with those Fuaga and Banks picks, I don't think there's anything that could help this team more than us watching an offensive line that actually works this year and lets them run and lets these quarterbacks have time, which obviously you already said, but I mean, that was my answer that I was planning for this question before. It's so important, and I think there's actually reason for optimism that it could work out. That's the whole season. Even the quarterbacks, I think we kind of feel like if they don't work out, they can go back to the well. If they missed on Fuaga and Banks, like, it's going to take years to. I mean, those are their two biggest investments they've made.
Yeah, that's the it's not just the season. I mean, it's the state of the franchise, really.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
is what it comes down to. You've invested everything into that, and if it goes bust, you're done. I would go so far as to say, like, that working out is going to determine whether or not Kellen Moore has a tenure
Yeah,
here.
it's
I
fair.
like I think if it busts, you're kind of starting all the way over again. You have no building blocks at all, and this isn't the NBA. Like, you can't just be the Orlando Magic and trade all your picks away, get a guy and think you're going to go for it and like actually have it work out. There aren't like it takes a generation to build an NFL team, and if this doesn't work, you're cooked. So yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I kind of looked at it a different way, and
Yeah,
I probably cheated by assuming success on the offensive
right.
line. So I mean, it's just flipping it over to the other side of the trench, and if you can fix the D line somehow, have a couple of these things work out, have your coaching be a little bit better, get more out of them. Chase Young's actually a fact instead of a theory, and
Mm.
all that stuff comes together. I feel like you're on a decent. You got another building block there. So I was accounting for like Banks and Fuaga working, which is cheating because we don't know for sure, especially in the case of Banks. But I was kind of taking into account, all right, like, who's the next guy? If he works, you fix this position, take out the doubts, D line, and I would throw Brzee in there too. Like, if you
Yeah.
get those two guys, but they're that's more of a fictional story than I think your selection, which is actually realistic and
Those are absolutely
possible.
the two I considered, though. I mean, like, those are the two I weighed as my answer. So,
What
keep
about
me
cornerback?
updated. Corner's third, but yeah, I mean, corner is absolutely third. You could tell me the defensive line is better than the cornerback position right now. Just because they have the high investments in Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor doesn't mean that they've nailed those picks. So that's absolutely there. But I just think the pass rush affects if you could tell me that this pass rush is going to work out, it changes my like perception of this team even more because I'm skeptical. And if you told me it was a plus instead of a minus, that would change. But yeah, cornerback is absolutely in this conversation for some of the same reasons. We just have no idea. We have no idea if that's going to be an asset or a liability, and both are still on the table right now, I think.
Yeah, big time. All right, we're gonna hit a quick break here, and we will be back with more show right after this.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store.
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you.
I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide flavored whiskey, Ponchatoula strawberry, and Chilton County peaches in your favorite bars, stores, and restaurants. Hardhide Chilton County Peach Whiskey is a blend of aged wheat whiskey, light American whiskey, and fresh Chilton County peaches from Alabama's Durbin Family Farms. And Hardhide Strawberry Whiskey tells the story of a small town famous for strawberry farming. A delicious natural strawberry-infused 86-proof whiskey for whiskey lovers. Just look for the red and orange bottles in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants.
All right, welcome back to NewOrleans.Football, presented by PJ's Coffee. It is now time for our next segment, presented by Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant. Give me your take. Something that's a little bit risky. It could be milk, it could be wine, however it ages. We'll see how it goes. But standing out there watching practice, we all have like deep harbored thoughts that we would never really say in public. I'm going to force a couple of those out here. Give me your one. Give me your one that you feel like you have a strong lean on, but you don't believe in it either way yet.
I've got so many negative thoughts swirling in my head with this, but I'll go positive on this one. And we've mentioned his name already. I can't quit Chase Young. I still believe
he's your Kendra. He's your Kendra.
Yeah, he's my Kendra.
Well, more so because he could actually play though. But
this isn't necessarily from watching minicamp and OTAs because, as we've said, the defensive lineman didn't do anything out there. But there's an investment level with him. I kind of admittedly wondered about his buy-in last year. He kind of had to settle for coming to the Saints on a one-year deal while he was having neck surgery and his market didn't play out. But this year, I think, he chose the Saints. He spent a year here. He wanted to be here, signed his 3-year deal here. This is where he decided to stay fully healthy. Watching him in OTAs and minicamp, watching him in 7-on-7 drills, embracing new defense in Brandon Staley. If it's ever going to work for him, this is the year for it to work. It's probably the healthiest he's been in an offseason in his career. He's still relatively young. And there's just not a lot of guys I look at on that defense and I'm like, well, that guy could be special. That guy could be special. He's still that guy could be special for me. So I'm not my hot take isn't necessarily book it. Chase Young is going to be great, but my hot take is he's still a pivot point for this team that could change our outlook on them.
Absolutely. Like for this, no question about it. He's a good pick for this. I would feel better about the Chase Young trajectory if he had been out there for every single practice. Like that would have illustrated something to me that just kind of, I don't know, like I don't know if it means anything or if it doesn't, but for a guy in that position, I would just feel better about, oh man, he was out here every single day. He was out here during the voluntary portion and he wasn't. So I don't know, but like, I still think he could be good, but I remain like slightly pessimistic about him, and I've carried that, and I still feel the same way, but it could flip the other direction, absolutely. But that's the type of gamble you have to take when you're not drafting well. Like those are the guys, and that I will give them this. Like, and I think you've made this point a million times. Like, I think if you are betting on somebody in that position, none of them are good, safe bets. There's a gamble. There's more risk than possibility in any one of them. He's the guy I want to gamble on, just given the age and the pedigree. But I still don't know that you are finding this is our cornerstone building block defensive end. And could he prove it? He could. But I'm with you. Like I feel like that's a good one for this exercise. Mine's gonna fall in the same one I'm gonna say, and there's all the reasons for doubt. But like my hottest take watching these practices out there is that like maybe Juwan can be okay. They were finding him a lot. Tight ends in general were getting the ball a lot. He had a good even split between Rattler and Shuck. I went through and I looked at it and I was thinking maybe maybe Rattler hit him more because Rattler kind of attacks that middle quadrant of the field. It was a pretty even split. By the end of these practices, he was second on the team in receptions with 9 and second on the team in targets with 11. just behind Rashid Shaheed, who was 12 of 13 catch wise. He had a productive camp. And look, it goes beyond just him. Like that position in general. Jack Stoll, 6 catches on 6 targets. Trayton Welch had a lot of targets, a lot of catches. Like the tight ends were getting passes in this offense. So maybe Juwan Johnson has like some consistent productivity throughout. And look, I will say, like, he came to life last year after Derek Carr disappeared. So maybe there was a chemistry issue too. I would bet against it. I'm not drafting him early in fantasy, but that's my possible wine, possible milk take after OTAs and minicamp.
This is huge. This is great news. We can talk about this off air. I have so much. It's just been weighing me down. I have all this Juwan Johnson stock that I bought 2 years ago when Derek Carr first arrived, and they spent the offseason. I mean, I think Juwan Johnson, you can check your notes. I think he caught 50% of all the passes in OTAs and minicamp that year. And then we're sitting at his locker, and he's talking about how he studied this Julian Edelman film because that's the role he's going to play in this offense. And Derek Carr loves those choice routes. And he had this big smile on his face. And then first preseason game comes around, and he hits Juwan Johnson twice on that opening touchdown drive. And I'm like, writing fantasy advice about Juwan. I maxed out the credit cards. I dipped into the retirement. I bought all this Juwan Johnson stuff. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So now let's talk afterward. You can at least help me short it a little bit.
He has to. He has to hit, though, I think, for this offense to even have a chance. Like, he has to hit. He has to be okay for that investment not to be terrible. I think part of the thing that's hindered his career a little bit, though, is that he's played with multiple quarterbacks who don't like to throw in that middle quadrant of the field. And, I do think as we analyze Shuck, I do think that was maybe one area where Rattler had a significant advantage is kind of attacking
during minicamp.
Yes, attacking the middle of the field. I think it'll click in and change and come a little bit. But I think Shuck's penchant is more to, okay, like I want to try to roll out, extend, do, kind of hit these outside quadrants. Maybe you can work multiple ways. Maybe, he still caught a good amount of passes from him. They have a lot of chemistry. They played together in college. They've been working out together. Maybe it hits a little bit. I don't think it's gonna hit big. I don't think it's boom or bust, but I think there's like somewhere in there that, well, it is boom or bust, but I think there's somewhere in there that
well, no, it's probably not boom or bust with Juwan. I mean, his career hasn't necessarily been boom or bust because we've been talking about him for 4 years because he consistently catches like the 45 passes for the 600 yards and the 4 touchdowns. And there, it feels like there's more there. But at the very least, he's going to be probably their number 1 tight end, their number 3 target on the team. I mean, there's a baseline there at the very least. So I would be shocked if there's a bust, I should say.
The thing with Juwan is like if he could just have like a steady 40 per game, like I feel like the viewpoint would be a little bit different, but it feels too often like it's like 30, 0, 0, 13, 56, 27, 12, 66, 80. Like it kind of feels like that's how his games go. And if it was just kind of like a consistent 40, 50 yards a game, I feel like it would just play out completely different. Because last year it was like quiet. And then like he hits at the end of the year and all of a sudden it looks like, things are coming together for him. But it's kind of those disappearances within it. But like if he just had his steady 700 and it was just, you could allocate X amount of something every week, I feel like it would just come off a little bit differently and maybe add a big game on top of it. And I think that's where you get to the next level. But he gets to his 700 and it's kind of just like, you just feel like there's little stretches where you don't notice him. And I do think some of that's probably quarterback dependent a little bit. We saw it last year, but we'll see. Yeah, those feel like the guys that are made
well,
for this
I have
category.
one more in that category who I almost said, and you mentioned his name, Rashid Shaheed. Like he's probably even more so than Chase Young, but less surprising because Shaheed's been such a big part of this team, and I think he's maxed out, close to maxed out on his potential when he's been healthy the last couple of years. But he's right back to this camp looking like. I mean, I think if you watched practices and you didn't know the makeup of this team, you'd think he was wide receiver 1. I mean, you had the numbers. Was he led the team in catches in
Yes.
many
Yeah,
cases,
yeah.
but
12 or
and it
13.
wasn't just. I mean, we know what Rashid Shaheed does. He runs deep and he catches those 5 deep passes a year that are big impact plays. But man, he's working in traffic. They're giving him run after the catch opportunities. He's catching slants. He's catching the most passes from both quarterbacks. He's got the speed. He's got the opportunity in this offense. Kellen Moore should have a vision for how to use him. So I think this would be a good time to buy Rashid Shaheed stock as well.
No doubt. All right, it's going to take us into our next one, presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey and the Chilton County Peach. Look for the red bottle, look for the orange bottle. They got the gator on them, they stand out. Make sure you're buying that if you're at the store. Who makes the team a running back?
I kind of cheated in our 53-man roster projections. I went through my 53-man and I had 57 the first time I went through, and so I had to cut 2 offensive players and I had to cut 2 defensive players to get down to the number. And I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on there as my 4th running back behind Alvin, Kendre, and Devin Neal. And so I was like, oh, I could probably get away with cutting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He feels like the kind of guy that could be like, hey, you're the veteran we're going to put on the practice squad. If we need you on game day, you'll be right there. And then they signed Cam Akers after I made that decision, and it didn't change my decision because I'm like, well, now they got 2 guys they can do that with. And I don't necessarily think someone else is going to steal Marcus Yarns away from them. And there's Velas Jones, and there's
Valladay.
Xavier Valladay. And the fact that we just listed 5 guys that could potentially be on the practice squad kind of makes me think they don't have to use up a roster spot because they could probably get anyone, like at least 4 of those 5 guys back with that volume. So I went with just 3 running backs on my active roster, thinking those guys would be a phone call away. But if you told me it was 4 and I had to correctly guess the 4th, I'm giving a 1% edge to Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now. But it could absolutely be any one of those names I just listed.
I went with Valladay. I don't feel great about it. I mean, I felt like I think your answer is probably the actual realistic one, just given your options and roster management. I think if I redid it right now, I facilitated between him and Velas Jones back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I would probably go to Velas at this point over him. I feel like Cam Akers coming in is more of a commentary on Clyde than anybody else. Then they feel similar. They feel like they fit in the same basket. Now, if Cam Akers can show you that now 2 years removed from the second Achilles injury, I think he probably becomes the favorite at that position. I think he probably has the most talent out of all of them, the most demonstrated talent within the NFL. He came back from the first Achilles, had a good season, tore it again. I just don't know. I don't know what he is physically at this point. I don't know that we saw anything that kind of tells you a story at all. Like, it was very limited reps out there, very limited movement. He looked okay, but there wasn't a moment where it was like, oh man, like that's the guy that I remember from the Rams. So I think at any point, if he shows that, he probably becomes number 4 on this team. Until then, to be determined. But I think it's probably what you're saying is you have these veteran guys, you have some of these younger guys, you rotate them up. Maybe at some point you sign one to the 53, but if you can get away with starting without one of them on the roster, you probably do. These are the guys that get put on ice and get those call-ups early in the season.
Well, I'll tell you what's to be determined is who can pass protect. There's a clear path to this roster. Who do they want in there on third downs? They were still doing that with Jamal Williams. I mean, when they were telling us why they gave Jamal Williams that touchdown at the end of the season, they said because he basically had to turn into a fullback. They never gave him the ball, but they made him go in there and block defensive ends. And look, that's not Alvin's specialty. Alvin does it very well sometimes, but not always. And it certainly is not Kendre Miller's specialty. And I don't think you can bring Devin Neal in and expect that to be his specialty. So there's probably a running back who makes this team because they trust him most in pass protection. And that could be Edwards-Helaire. That could be Akers. I don't know how much they've done it in their career, and maybe that's why they haven't stuck where they are. So if somebody can prove they can add that skill, they make the roster, I think.
To this day, that remains the wildest thing of that whole era, man. I cannot believe that happened, and I can't believe he kept his job. It was unbelievable, man. What a... Oh, man, let's hit a break, and we'll be back with the Kid Gordon question of the day.
I got hurt in a car wreck. Why should I get Gordon?
Because when you're hurt, you need money. And I fight for the people of Southeast Louisiana every day. I got a client who injured their neck in a car wreck, $250,000. Another client was hit by a big truck and needed back surgery. I got them $700,000, and they deserved every single penny.
That's what I'm talking about. Why wouldn't I get Gordon?
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, just call me, New Orleans. Get it done.
Call 504-800-8888.
You ever take a bite of something and immediately think, yeah, I'm coming back for this? Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant just added some new dishes, and man, they crushed it. The shrimp and crawfish pistolettes, golden and stuffed with bold Cajun flavor. Fried oyster tacos, crispy, fresh with the perfect kick. And the soft shell crab Alfredo, creamy, rich, and absolutely worth the order. They're open 7 days a week, and they deliver late. Bobby Hebert's Cajun Cannon Restaurant. Delicious food, superior service. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com.
Here at the Queen Casino, indulgence knows no bounds. Prepare your taste buds for an extraordinary culinary journey. Start your day at Capital Coffee. Craving something different? Three Walks Noodle Bar offers a tantalizing selection of Asian delights. At 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails, savor American cuisine with a twist. Or ascend to the loft for an elevated experience. Enjoy artesian grazing boards and exquisite craft cocktails. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
All right, welcome back to NewOrleans.Football. It is now time for the Get Gordon question of the day, presented by Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you have an accident, make sure you get Gordon. He will get you right. He will get you the justice you deserve. So make sure you call Gordon after you have an accident. All right, the question today is this. I feel the Saints have gained depth on the O-line, D-line, running back, and somewhat at linebacker. We know what they're trying to do at quarterback. How do they get there with the secondary?
Well, I mean, the how is pretty easy. I don't think there is a better looking position group in current free agency than corner. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Asante Samuel because the Saints visited with him, and he's expected to get a clean bill of health in July and sign somewhere. I love the idea because I think he's still 25. I think he turns 26 soon. And I think he could be a 2025 addition and a future addition. But Jair Alexander, by far the biggest name out there in free agency after he got released. Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, I don't know if he's still playing. Shaq Griffin's out there taking visits. I mean, there's other guys. Mike Hilton, Kendall Fuller. I mean, it's a position where there's actually options out there. So that's how they could get better. I mean, the question for me is how much investment do you want to make in anybody while you're a rebuilding team, which is why I like the young option there. So I kind of like the idea. If I was going to do it anywhere, that's the position where I do it, because I don't think it takes away from developing Alontae Taylor, who could still play that nickel star role. It doesn't take away from developing Kool-Aid, who could still start. It doesn't really take away from developing Quincy Riley. He could be your fourth and still rotate into the mix. You always need to get into your fourth and fifth cornerbacks. So if you don't feel good about that position, that is probably the one position where I would still add a veteran free agent. But if this year is all about what we said at the top of the show, evaluating the position, figuring out where you are going forward, then let the young guys play, and you will experience highs and lows with them. But you do need to know what you have in those guys.
Well, that's the question. You're GM for the day.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to add one of these guys at a cost-effective rate. Any one of them, take your pick. I don't care who it is. Do you do it, or do you just use this season for evaluation where at a position where you do have three young players and you do need to find answers?
Well, Alontae Taylor is a free agent after this year. So even if he breaks out, you don't know for sure he's a part of this team. So I do it if I see a path to someone being on this team beyond this year. Even if it's the Chase Young deal last year. That was a 1-year deal, but it was getting him in the building. It was making him like you, finding out if you like him. I don't rule that out with Jair Alexander, to be honest. But if it's clearly a 1-year rental, you're paying a guy who's going to be gone at the end of the year. You're paying a 35-year-old, a 33-year-old, a 32-year-old. I don't do that. I love the idea of Asante Samuel. I could be convinced that, hey, maybe you go all in on Jair Alexander because you're going to have money to spend in the future. But no, I'm not just bringing in a 33-year-old who's blocking a young guy's path to playing time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I facilitate both ways with this because if you just aren't good at that position, it's just such a merciless way to try to survive a season, and it could just like really undermine a lot of what you're trying to get going if there's like that level of frustration and you just can't cover at that position and you're putting somebody out there and they're just dying every single snap. Like I don't think that's a good way to live, but at the same time, I don't want to invest. If I'm the GM, I don't want to invest in this roster at all. Like I just want to play the odds with what I got and try to see either I hit or I don't, and I'm closer to getting answers if I don't. And then yeah, you mentioned the Alante thing. I think if I'm playing GM of this team, I'm trying to see if I can work out a deal with him right now because I actually do believe there is a upside to him still.
Yeah.
I think he's been a victim of a lot of different things. And regardless of whatever the upside is, I feel like I know what the downside is, and he's just a player I want on my team. Like I just like
Kind of
the way
that
he
Pete Werner
plays.
deal that they did last
Yeah,
year, like just lock him down now. Maybe he exceeds it, maybe he doesn't, but you're in the range either way.
I feel like as a team right now, if you're signing him probably for the best value that you could ever get him at.
Yeah, it's
So
probably
I would look into it. I would explore it. I don't know that I'm breaking the bank on it. I'm willing to pay him for what he is now, plus a little more maybe, and lock it up long term. And chase. I don't know. I just feel like as I'm rebuilding this team, I like the way he plays. I like his buy-in in this offseason. I like his energy. I don't know. I feel like I
yeah.
just feel like him in
He's
the
the
right
one who
role.
probably, I mean, they should put an offer on the table, and he's the one who maybe should bet on himself
I
because
think he should bet
he
on
just
himself.
watched Paulson Adebo turn himself into an $18 million cornerback with what he did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
like, but the other name in this category, I count Ike Yadam as a tiny bit of safety net. Like, if you want to make sure, if one of your young guys doesn't pan out, if there's an injury, we've seen Ike Adam out there at every practice. He is what he is, quote unquote. But I don't necessarily need to like go get Mike Hilton because I need an upgrade over Isaac Yadam and I need to pay $5 million for it. So Yadam is at least my safety net guy at that position.
I think I'd roll with the young guys, man. Like,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't fault him for bringing someone in either. Like, I'm not steadfast in that. I just feel I'm just not like if I were actually in that GM chair, I probably would invest in that position just because it feels like it's a way to spend a little bit of money, get some return, and kind of set a floor a little bit, and maybe set your team and coaches up for success. I think on this side of it, playing the virtual GM, it's very easy to say like don't do anything,
Yeah.
bottom out, and save yourself if you can, but don't invest in it. Don't have a spare tire on the car. I mean, I think you probably throw the spare tire on the car at some point, and I wouldn't fault him for it, but I would just rather watch Quincy Riley, Alante Taylor, and Kool-Aid McKinstry,
Yeah.
and just find out. But if there's not good things to find out, then you're in a bad spot. So I would get
Just
that too.
bringing home a lot of topics that we talked about today. Funny enough, I'm not worried about money so much anymore. The Saints have a path to financial freedom, and partly because of the money they got back from Derek Carr's contract, partly because they just don't have a lot of guys that they are paying money to in future years right now. The books get really clean really fast. And Brandon mentioned the idea when we were talking about some of these positions, Trey Hendrickson being out there as a guy they could trade for. The thing I don't want to do is trade draft picks for anybody. Like,
Well,
I would actually spend money on people. The thing I wouldn't want to do, I would be way more hesitant if we were talking about any names at any of these positions, corner included, that cost a precious draft pick.
what I don't want when I say the word invest, I mean more so in the idea that I wouldn't want to spend a dollar on anybody who I don't think is helping me win a game in 2027.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't want I don't want to spend money
absolutely.
on a guy that's going to help me win a game this year and cost me a draft slot,
Yeah.
and he's not part of my plan in 26 and 27. Like, hey, go sign whoever, sign Chase Young. Like, sign a Chase Young, and he's part of your future for 2-3 years. Like, I'm good with that, but I don't want Stephon Gilmore on this team
Right.
because, and again, like it's fine. I get it. I would get it if they brought him in, but like just personally, I would be a little bit against that because I just feel like, what are you doing? Like, who cares? Like, okay, you want a game with Gilmore? Like, great. Who gives a
Justin
shit?
Simmons and Devontae Adams last year. I mean, they flirted with it last year.
Yeah, it made more sense last year because you at least like were. They should have been trying to win with that guy. They like I don't know that you're trying to do it right now, but yeah,
No. It's
Yeah.
a big difference in 1 year, I think.
it is. It is.
And that again goes back to the first topic. What's their identity? I think they wanted to be a lot like last year, but they've been forced into being different. And I hope they continue to show. They have shown restraint along with it, and I hope they continue to.
All right, you just put a great bow on the whole show. We're going to wrap it up there. We will talk to you guys on Wednesday.